Cleva Carone, Executive Secretary Blanco, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, a very warm welcome to all of you from Paris, IEA headquarters. I am really delighted to have so many colleagues, ministers, high-level officials from across the Latin America, and we are so happy that they have accepted the invitation of IEA, OLADE, and the IDB to attend this meeting. We are very honored to organize this meeting together with our colleagues from IDB and OLADE. When I look at the countries attending this meeting, they make about 2/3 of the Latin American energy consumption, which is, of course, very representative. But today, we talk about what are the advantages, strengths of Latin America when it comes to a world which aims to reach net zero climate goals. Energy is an enabler for the economic growth, prosperity, but at the same time, energy may well lead to a major problem of climate change. How do we combine these two things together is a homework for the IEA and many of the organization colleagues around this table. Now, we all know that in the last few months, more and more countries, governments make strong commitments to bring their emissions to net zero by 2050 across the world. And when we look at Latin America, we see that about 60% of the Latin American energy consumption is committed to net zero by 2050 by their governments. It's a very strong number. Many of you may know that only 6 weeks ago, we provided a roadmap for the world, how the world can reach a net zero energy system. Between now and 2030, what kind of steps we have to make as the world to reach net zero by 2050. And as we say in this report, that there is not one single pathway. And what we describe is not the pathway, it is a pathway. Countries, according to their circumstances, economic development levels, and their political priorities, may choose, and in my view, should choose their own pathway to bring their emissions to net zero. When we look at Latin America, we see that in addition to hydropower, I will come in a few minutes to hydropower, which is a favorite topic for me. We see that for renewables, we see very good numbers, very good results, both for solar, wind, and bioenergy. We are getting one after another good news from different Latin American countries, records after records in terms of solar installations, solar prices going down, which is very good. Only 6 months ago, I said that the solar is the new king of global electricity markets, overtaking from coal of many years of dominance. Now, we at the IEA believe that we need all clean energy technologies to reach those targets. We cannot pick up one and forget the other one. And therefore, we are very, as they say, very objective to all the clean energy technologies have the same arm length. And again, while we are seeing a strong growth of solar, wind, bioenergy, and the others, we should not forget the hydropower. Just yesterday, we released a major report on hydropower, which I call the forgotten giant. Why it is forgotten? Because when you go to meetings, Of course, people talk about solar, wind efficiency. We should talk about those, definitely. But hydropower contribution is more than if you put all the other renewables put together. Hydropower alone is bigger than all the others put together. And it provides also a permanent backbone of electricity markets in many countries. Now, we have several proven technologies which can help us to reduce the emissions and economy to grow. We never forget the economic growth. What are those proven technologies in the market? Renewables, efficiency, electric cars in many countries, electrification. But again, these are not enough to reach our targets. We need other technologies who are under development, but not yet part of the market, to be part of the market soon by learning by doing here. And one technology here I would like to highlight is hydrogen. Some 2.5 years ago, during the G20 presidency, at that time, the Japanese Prime Minister Abe, asked the IEA to have a landmark report about the status quo of hydrogen and where are we, where can we go. And since then, hydrogen has been a key area of focus for the IEA. And we are very happy to see that many Latin American countries, I just met yesterday, he was here, the Chile Minister Jobe, or Costa Rica or Brazil, they have strong interest for hydrogen. Now, when I look at the world, I work on energy issues for some time, and it has never been the case that there is one technology everybody loves. There are always problems. They find a problem in the solar, they find a problem in renewables or nuclear, whatever, but everybody loves hydrogen. This is very unique. So we have to make the most out of this. Even though it creates some question marks, if everybody loves something, there must be something behind it. But in this case, we believe hydrogen has a huge, huge, huge future, very promising future, especially for Latin America, because we have all the framework conditions here as an energy carrier in Latin America. Now, the question is, while we see many countries come up with strategies, we at the IEA try to help those countries to build their country-specific strategies, where to start, what kind of incentives are good, what kind of incentives are not proven to be good, what kind of regulatory framework has to be carried out. And I am very happy that my colleague, Dr. Gül, who is in charge of our technology work, will tell you more about this. And it is the reason why we have been discussing with different Latin American countries how we can make the hydrogen an integral part of the Latin American energy landscape. One thing, dear colleagues, before I finish with two things, that the international collaboration to reach our net zero targets is a must. In the absence of international collaboration, to reach the net zero targets will be more costly, and as such, it will be even more difficult than it currently is. And when we talk about the international collaboration, we need the countries in the south and north, poor or rich energy producers or energy consumers. So this is something we are keen, and one of the key homeworks we put ourselves at the IEA is try to foster international collaboration. To finish, the net zero, people say, the world leaders, it's a race. It's a race, definitely, to net zero. But in my view, it is not a race among the countries. It's a race against the time. And also, not all the countries start this race from the same point of departure. Rich countries start in front of the developing countries. So therefore, there is additional, in my view, responsibility for the advanced economies to support the clean energy transition in the emerging world. And also, I wanted to say that the nature of the climate change is so that unless everybody finishes the race, nobody wins the race. It's a different type of race. So we wanted to make sure that this message is also underlined. Once again, I am delighted that we are all together here. 2/3 of the Latin American energy consumption and emissions around this table. And I am once again grateful to IDB and OLADE to join forces with the International Energy Agency. With this, if I may, I would like to turn to my friend, Alfonso, to deliver his welcome remarks. Alfonso, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Virol. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, Mr. Mauricio Claver-Carone, and it's a pleasure to share this event with the IEDB and the International Energy Agency. Well, I will switch to Spanish in order to lead my welcome remarks. Señor Director General de la Agencia Internacional de Energía, Fatih Birol, señor Presidente del Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, Mauricio Claver-Carone, señores Ministros de Energía de Latinoamérica y el Caribe, señores Ministros de Energía de países miembros de la Agencia Internacional de Energía, embajadores y representantes de país, autoridades de nuestras agencias asociadas y público en general. Reciban todos ustedes un cálido saludo desde Quito, Ecuador, sede de la Organización Latinoamericana de Energía. Agradecemos al BID y a la Agencia Internacional de Energía la voluntad y el espíritu permanente de colaboración que nos ha permitido desarrollar estas mesas de diálogo de alto nivel en temas de interés de toda nuestra región. Demostramos con el esfuerzo de trabajo coordinado y colaborativo entre agencias que tenemos un mismo objetivo: velar por el desarrollo del sector energía de nuestra región y proyectar a América Latina y el Caribe en el contexto energético global. Todo para permitir el desarrollo, el crecimiento y mejora de las condiciones de vida de la población de nuestra región. Agradecemos la fuerte respuesta y compromiso de las autoridades del sector energético de América Latina y el Caribe con estas iniciativas de diálogo e intercambio que promovemos entre el BID, la Agencia Internacional de Energía y OLADE, para acompañar y apoyar a nuestros países en el fortalecimiento de su sector energético, con foco en las transiciones energéticas y la descarbonización de nuestras economías. También agradecemos a los países miembros de la Agencia Internacional de Energía que manifiestan su interés y se acercan a la realidad de América Latina y el Caribe, para acompañar y apoyar los procesos de cambio que lleva adelante toda nuestra región. Latinoamérica y el Caribe poseen un 25% de energías renovables en la composición de su matriz primaria de energía. Un 59% de la generación de electricidad proviene de fuentes renovables, y tenemos la ambición de llevar este indicador al 70% antes del 2030. Un 97% de nuestra población tiene acceso a la electricidad, pero aún tenemos una última milla para cubrir y lograr el acceso universal a energías modernas de toda nuestra población. Estos son aproximadamente unos 18 millones de personas en América Latina que no tienen acceso a la electricidad. Latinoamérica y el Caribe poseen asimismo una relevante dotación de recursos renovables naturales, muchos aún sin ser aprovechados a su máximo potencial y que se presentan como una gran oportunidad para el desarrollo económico de nuestra región a futuro. Tenemos 3 países con una matriz de generación de electricidad cercana al 100% de renovabilidad. También debemos destacar que existe un crecimiento ininterrumpido de incorporación de energías renovables no convencionales, fundamentalmente eólica y solar, que se da a altas tasas, fundamentalmente también a partir de mecanismos de subsidio que han demostrado ser efectivos y eficientes en costos para los sistemas eléctricos de muchos de los países de América Latina y el Caribe. La biomasa también es parte del ADN del sector energético de nuestra región, con un relevante rol de los biocombustibles en muchos de nuestros países. Por otro lado, el potencial de geotermia es elevado y disponemos de reservas de todos los minerales críticos que serán protagonistas y demandados en las transiciones energéticas a nivel global. Sin embargo, la región no posee una evolución de las transiciones energéticas que se realice al mismo ritmo entre países. Adicionalmente, el ritmo que incorporamos las energías renovables al sistema es inferior a la tasa en la cual está creciendo la demanda de energía y electricidad. Y las brechas entre países son amplias, existiendo unas fuertes barreras para el aceleramiento de las transiciones energéticas en muchos de nuestros mercados. Por eso quiero resaltar que lo que actualmente venimos haciendo, si no quebramos la tendencia natural para acelerar la expansión de la energía sostenible en la región, no vamos a cumplir los compromisos climáticos asumidos. Por eso debemos lograr acentuar y redoblar los esfuerzos orientados a la descarbonización del sector energético de toda nuestra región. En ese contexto surge la necesidad de ampliar la inversión en el sector, modernizar los marcos regulatorios que fueron concebidos para un mundo diferente, lograr aprovechar las oportunidades a partir de una recuperación sostenible, creando empleos y reactivando las economías domésticas post-pandemia. Adecuar los sistemas energéticos a un mundo cada vez más digitalizado y que requiere y nos demanda innovar. Las tecnologías disruptivas, el hidrógeno como vector energético producido a partir de fuentes renovables de energía, la potencialidad que tiene América Latina y el Caribe de ser un proveedor global de este combustible, el rol de la inversión privada en el sector, las grandes oportunidades que existen para la generación distribuida, diseñar sistemas que operen con una alta participación de fuente renovable intermitente y la complementariedad que se da entre fuentes y el almacenamiento son los grandes temas que se enfrenta el sector energético de América Latina en el futuro inmediato. Muchos países ya empezaron a trabajar en tal sentido. Han avanzado de forma sustancial en el abordaje de estos temas. Están innovando, están marcando un camino y una tendencia. Escuchemos estas visiones, aprendamos, intercambiemos experiencias y apoyemos a la región en este camino, que presenta grandes desafíos, pero claramente muchísimas oportunidades. Esa es nuestra invitación y que es el propósito que hoy nos convoca y que hemos planteado entre la Agencia Internacional de Energía, el BID y OLADE. Bienvenidos y muchas gracias, y un especial saludo a Fatih y a Mauricio y a todo el equipo del BID y la Agencia Internacional de Energía y OLADE, que han estado detrás de todos los detalles de la organización de este importante esfuerzo conjunto. Muchísimas gracias demos inicio, por lo tanto, al evento. Bienvenido, Mauricio.
Bien. Gracias. Well, it's my turn, I guess, right? So I'll go ahead. Good morning and good afternoon, obviously, for our friends joining us from Europe and other parts of the world. So on behalf of the Inter-American Development Bank, let me welcome you as well to the second Ministerial Roundtable, which of course I'm pleased to be co-hosting with the International Energy Agency, as well as the Organización Latinoamericana de Energía, OLADE, in order to discuss how Latin America and the Caribbean can build on its strengths and seize new opportunities with a particular focus on renewable energy, as we just heard. And I'm particularly glad to be here today with our esteemed colleagues, Faith, Fatih Briol, and of course, Alfonso Blanco. So thank you both. Before starting, let me congratulate the IEA for the recent release of that flagship report we heard about, Net Zero by 2050, a roadmap for the global energy sector. It's outstanding, it's groundbreaking, and its contribution is going to help inform the path that we must follow for achieving net emission neutrality by 2050. So let's take a quick look at the region in this regards. Latin America and the Caribbean are indeed already have solid foundations to accelerate the energy transition, to promote policies that create new jobs, and to build low carbon energy infrastructure. The region, as you know, is endowed with abundant natural resources which favor biomass, solar, wind energy production. Also, Latin America and the Caribbean have a proven record in policies to promote an energy transition to a sustainable and decarbonized economy. The IDB has been and will continue to be even more a partner of choice in the energy transition as a result of our relentless commitment to build a more sustainable hemisphere, which of course is one of the goals of the Vision 2025 we introduced at our annual meeting. We have financed over $24 billion in hydropower development projects, such as the binational Salto Grande hydropower plant between Argentina and Uruguay. The IDB has also financed thousands of megawatts of wind and solar energy generation in Mexico, Brazil, and Chile, to name a few. Moreover, we're helping to rapidly close the remaining 3% energy access gap in Suriname, where the IDB financed the first isolated solar mini-grid, providing electricity to remote communities. But our efforts not limited to financing critical investment projects. The IDB remains the partner of choice because of our expertise and the extensive technical knowledge, as well as our advisory roles that support countries that want to develop critical regulatory instruments and to also attract private investments in renewable technology. Our ongoing efforts include, just to give you some examples, the structuring of open, transparent auctions for renewable energy in Colombia, Barbados, Jamaica, Suriname, the market design for flexible energy systems incorporating renewables and using energy storage utilizing lithium batteries in Uruguay and Bolivia, and also the phase out of coal power plants in Chile. Furthermore, we're accelerating the transformation agenda by tackling new sectors that are key for decarbonization. The mobility sector is one good example of that. Currently, we're supporting more than 15 countries, including Costa Rica, Peru, and Ecuador, in deploying electric mobility solutions that encompass all stages of development, from identifying electromobility market feasibility to the financing of pilot projects. We've also fully embraced the digital era and led the development of new energy vectors such as green hydrogen that is 100% carbon-free and represents an untapped value chain creation opportunity in the region with a potential market of $150 billion. The IDB has supported the development of the first 100% green hydrogen transportation pilot in Costa Rica and the backbone studies to create a hydrogen export market in Chile. Furthermore, we're working with Colombia, Trinidad and Tobago, and some other countries in developing innovative hydrogen roadmaps that are contribute to long-term sustainable economies. Look, if I said this repeatedly, and I'll continue to say it ad nauseum, Latin America and the Caribbean cannot afford to lose another decade, and the IDB is committed to opening opportunities for sustainable and resilient recovery. I'm convinced, beyond convinced, that addressing climate change is a competitive issue. And to that end, our energy division is really taking the lead in developing sectoral energy-focused long-term strategies together with the region's countries. Through our platform to support the ministers of finance in energy and climate change issues, we're helping to connect the dots, to connect the strategies with the NDCs and existing planning and expansion documents to transform climate commitments into effective investments. Finally, I'd like to end by reiterating that all of these efforts are framed under the IDB's Vision 2025, which sets us on the path to achieve energy transition and decarbonization in the narrow window of time that we all have to meet the Paris Agreement. So thank you so much, and I look forward to the remaining event.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clever Carone. I am now, perhaps this weekend, I am going to read your Vision 2025. I am very impressed. So, and get some inspirations from you for our agency. Very much appreciated, sir. So many thanks to Alfonso and Mr. Clever Carone. Now we will start with this session one. May I now ask the participants, first of all, to stick to your time allocation so that we are not running late and we can all listen to each other. And we will be having a timer in the screen, and our lead speakers will have maximum of 5 minutes and other participants 3 minutes, my colleagues say. So may I now have the pleasure to invite the ministers from Colombia, Costa Rica, and Ecuador to turn on your cameras and join us. But before going to the ministers now, we are looking forward to listen and interesting, promising presentation from Ariel Yepes, who is the head of IDB's Energy Division on the financing of renewable energies. Mr. Yepes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pati. Reaching net zero emissions by mid-century is indeed the most critical and complex challenge humanity is facing today. And it is inspiring to see how this objective is gaining momentum through increasing international efforts and political will. Latin America and the Caribbean is the region with the greenest energy matrix globally, and it must remain this way. While transitioning towards decarbonization, the region should adopt resilient energy systems, but most importantly, close the current access gap of 18 million people with no access to electricity. Investment in non-conventional renewable energy has risen sharply in the region over the past decade, increasing from 4 to 13%. During the same period, the installed capacity of wind and solar energy alone has increased 42 times. This significant increase is mainly due to two factors: great abundance and quality of non-conventional energy resources and reduction in the cost of solar and wind technologies. This has made solar and wind energy very competitive in the region compared to fossil fuels. Renewable prices for contracts established through auctions in Latin America have set world records lows, and this has been accomplished without the need of subsidies. Since auction's first implementation more than 15 years ago in Brazil, Latin America has been a leader worldwide in terms of renewable energy auction design, providing an innovative model and best practices to the rest of the world. Other countries have taken clear steps towards an energy transition. One example is Colombia, who launched a new renewable energy law in 2014 and the specific regulation for energy auctions. That was the first step for the transition based on an auction system that placed in 2019 more than 2 gigawatts of solar and wind energy capacity from private developers. Barbados is taking actions to become a country run by 100 clean energy. The country is also adopting a diversification strategy for the national oil and gas company as the country transitions to a zero carbon economy. Despite the solar and wind boom in the region, the total share of renewable, including hydropower, has remained stable at around 58%. Therefore, to meet the decarbonization goals under the Paris Agreement, it is necessary to accelerate renewable energy in the region, in particular, hydropower, wind, and solar energy. In 2017, the IDB launched the study, The Grid of the Future. It showed that Latin America and the Caribbean could reach a 70 to 80% renewable energy participation by 2030 at a cheaper cost than fossil fuels. For achieving this goal, the future share of solar and wind participation in electricity generation will have to fourfold compared to 2017. This is equivalent to 30 billion in annual investments of new capacity in the region, which is 30% higher than the current average level. Hydropower will continue to be a critical energy source. The same study concluded that energy interconnections between countries is key to increase the share of renewables in the energy matrix, since they will facilitate the safe integration of variable energy sources while increasing energy security in the region. In that context, the renewable energy for Latin America and the Caribbean, RELAC, becomes a critical initiative to accelerate the energy transition in the region. RELAC is a regional initiative launched at COP25 in Madrid to reach a regional goal of 70% renewables participation by 2030. The initiative was originally led by Colombia, Chile, and Costa Rica. Currently, there are 11 member countries, and we are actively working on adding more members. Reaching RELAC's goal implies increasing the share of renewable energy. It also means an increase in climate action ambitions. It is the first time that a group of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean agrees voluntarily to promote renewables with a concrete goal and a platform designed to support countries in the process. Countries such as Costa Rica and Uruguay have been already able to achieve almost 100% renewable electricity. These success stories show common elements: a broad political consensus to move forward, strong government leadership in policy and regulatory management, and a productive dialogue between the public and private sectors. Another conclusion that emerges from these success stories is that in the context of Latin America and the Caribbean, higher participation in renewables does not necessarily imply the need for subsidies. There is, however, a need for a proper enabling framework to mitigate all possible investment risks. In that context, RELAC's approach is to support countries overcoming barriers to renewable energy adoption. From this perspective, our generation has an extraordinary opportunity to make significant contribution for the generations to come. It is linked to the decisions that need to be taken in the energy sector to make it more resilient, sustainable, and accessible. And the region is very well positioned to transition to a greener, renewable energy matrix in the near future.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Yepes. When I look at the cost numbers, what I would say is that even we didn't have a very climate change, the world should go for renewables anyways, especially Latin America, because they are cheap and they are abundant. So it's a matter of economic choice, and therefore the declining costs in Latin America is definitely a good news. Solar, wind, together with, as I said, hydropower and others. Thank you very much for this. Now, I have the honor to announce now my friend, the Minister of Energy of Brazil, Bento Albuquerque. Unfortunately, at the end, he was not able to join us in person, but he sent a short video message. If we can please play it now and to see what Brazil has to say.
Dear Executive Secretary of OLADE, Alfonso Bonilla, dear Executive Director of IEA, my dear friend Fatih Birol, Dr. Mauricio Claver Caroni, President of IDB, fellow ministers and friends. It's a pleasure to participate once again in this Ministerial Roundtable. OLADE is an essential player when it comes to energy integration in Latin America and the Caribbean. IDB is crucial for the implementation of projects and initiatives in our region. And IEA has been giving a significant contribution to our combined efforts. Today's session on renewables is relevant and necessary in the context of a global transition to a low-carbon economy. We must use all available technologies to promote clean energy transitions according to national, regional, and local realities, and also investing in research and development so that new technologies become available in the near future. There are three main challenges in our way: to increase the share of renewables and clean energies in our matrix, to promote energy efficiency, and to reduce CO2 emissions from non-renewables, including natural gas through carbon capture, use, and storage. We must also ensure adequate levels of flexibility and capacity in the system, without losing sight of the affordability for people and the economy. A stronger regional power integration is certainly important for our energy security. Exploring synergies between existing and new infrastructures, hydrological regimes, and demand fluctuations. As you all know, Brazil is going through a severe hydrological situation at this moment, and a good collaboration with our neighbors, especially Argentina and Uruguay, is being essential to face this challenge in a coordinated way. Dear friends, according to the IEA, modern and sustainable bioenergy can represent almost 20% of the global energy supply in 2050. This is a great opportunity for our countries. Bioenergy can generate new high-quality technology-based jobs, fostering rural and regional development. It is the current option for direct introduction of renewables in the transport and industrial sectors. Just last week, for example, a second cellulosic ethanol plant was announced in Brazil, and its future production has already been sold under long-term contracts. Wind and solar energy have also been rapidly expanding. Over 1 decade, the installed capacity increased 18 times. According to our projections for 2030, solar will reach at least 5%, and wind 14% of Brazil's power generation. Scaling up and replicating successful initiatives depend upon the support of institutions like the IDB, not only for establishing new infrastructures, but also for funding research and development of new technologies. The hydrogen sector, for instance, is one that is developed at a rapid pace in Brazil and in other countries of the region. In the United Nations High-Level Dialogue on Energy, held last week, Brazil served as energy transition champion together with Chile and Colombia. The government presented 2 voluntary commitments, one on biofuels and another on hydrogen. And we have seen a very positive engagement of the Brazilian private sector in this exercise. I am certain that our region has all the attributes to become a champion in renewable energies and take advantage of the global energy transition. We have abundant natural resources, a decades-long experience with clean energy, and we are committed both to tackle climate change and foster sustainable development. Thank you.
So we thank Bento very much for his excellent remarks. He also highlighted the issue that in addition to solar and wind, hydropower, there is also the bioenergy. Sustainable bioenergy is an important part of the equation, because the issue is not only generate electricity clean, but we have to clean up the entire energy system. For example, advanced biofuels can be used hopefully soon for the planes. We have to clean up the fuels for jet fuels and others to replace the current kerosene and the others, and advanced biofuels can play a very important role here. And many thanks to Mr. Minister. Now, we turn to Colombia. I am delighted to hand the floor to Vice Minister Miguel Lotero. Minister Lotero, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, señor director ejecutivo. En el contexto actual de recuperación post-COVID, nos invita a reflexionar sobre el tipo de economía que necesitan nuestros países y la forma de financiar los retos más importantes en nuestros planes de transición energética. Si bien los países de la región tienen una gran ventaja global por el potencial de energía renovable y las oportunidades de inversión en sistemas energéticos sostenibles, nosotros debemos entender la importancia de promover mecanismos de mercado que permitan asegurar una transformación eficiente y una seguridad energética a nuestras sociedades. Los esfuerzos por migrar hacia un sistema energético más competitivo, sostenible y resiliente mediante la masificación de energías renovables no convencionales y la adopción de nuevas tecnologías, por supuesto, que deben ir acompañados de políticas que permitan promover la eficiencia energética y la digitalización de las redes eléctricas, permitiendo alcanzar y entregando herramientas a los consumidores para que hagan un uso muy eficiente de los recursos. La experiencia que tenemos en América Latina ha demostrado que la integración de las energías renovables en las matrices energéticas no requiere de la implementación de subsidios estatales, pues gracias a esa riqueza y disponibilidad de recursos naturales que tenemos en nuestra región, la generación de renovables se logra ser o mostrar mucho más atractiva y competitiva que las fuentes tradicionales. En este sentido, pues nosotros debemos darle prioridad a la promoción de mecanismos que aceleren la masificación de renovables, que promuevan la inversión privada, especialmente importante en países con limitado espacio fiscal. Estos mecanismos de subastas de energías renovables han demostrado su efectividad en países como Colombia, como Brasil, como Argentina, como México, y han facilitado el desarrollo de nuevas tecnologías que pueden ser fundamentales para la implementación de nuestros planes de recuperación sostenible. Específicamente en el caso colombiano, se creó un marco regulatorio y fiscal bastante atractivo para la inversión privada, dentro del cual se destacan incentivos tributarios para proyectos de generación y eficiencia energética, que incluyen, entre otros, la obligación para que los comercializadores de energía compren entre el 8 y el 10% de su producción en fuentes no convencionales de energía renovable, una deducción especial del 50% en el impuesto sobre la renta en un periodo hasta de 15 años y la exención automática de IVA en la compra o en la importación de los equipos destinados a la producción de energía a partir de fuentes no convencionales. La reciente aprobación también por parte de nuestro Congreso de la República de una nueva ley de transición energética amplía algunos de estos beneficios y permite reglamentar nuevas tecnologías tales como la geotermia y el hidrógeno. Estos incentivos se han complementado con unas exitosas subastas que incluyeron innovaciones en política pública, como haber realizado la primera subasta de 2 puntas para energías renovables en el mundo. Esta se realizó en octubre de 2019 y logró asignar 9 proyectos de energía renovable con una capacidad instalada de 1.365 megavatios. Ese mismo año, mediante la subasta de cargo por confiabilidad, se adjudicaron obligaciones de energía en firme a 5 proyectos eólicos y solares. En total, estos proyectos, sumadas las 2 subastas, representan inversiones por más de 2.250 millones de dólares y la creación de más de 6.000 puestos de trabajo. Además, este año el gobierno lanzó una nueva subasta de energías renovables que va a tener su adjudicación en octubre de 2021. Los proyectos calificados para participar ascienden los 7.2 gigas y podrán generar inversiones por más de 6.800 millones de dólares y hasta 32.000 empleos. Por otro lado, también es muy importante trabajar conjuntamente con el sector privado para seguir promoviendo el acceso a la energía de toda la población, acelerar el ritmo de despliegue actual y brindar soluciones energéticas a las regiones rurales de una mejor y más eficiente forma. Debemos trabajar en un nuevo modelo público-privado para avanzar en la universalización de la cobertura que combine subsidios gubernamentales eficientes con nuevas tecnologías de generación, también con almacenamiento, métodos de pago que estén asociados al uso, soluciones centradas en el usuario y, por supuesto, una mayor sostenibilidad financiera. En los términos de hidroenergía, debemos entender que todas las políticas para acelerar el despliegue de energías renovables nos van a ayudar a la región a enfrentar esa incertidumbre que genera la vulnerabilidad climática, las amenazas del cambio climático sobre los principales proyectos hidroeléctricos que existen en nuestra región. Desde Colombia, en este sentido, hemos impulsado la modernización del sector con recomendaciones de una misión de transformación energética que incluyen aspectos claves como realizar una primera subasta de almacenamiento de energía en América Latina, incluir la medición avanzada en el consumo de energía para los usuarios, para que los usuarios puedan tener una más y mejor información sobre sus consumos. Y esta modernización, por supuesto, debe estar impulsada por la necesidad de seguir apostándole a transformar la industria energética a partir de nuevas tecnologías que reduzcan las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero. Muchas gracias, señor director ejecutivo, por el espacio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lotero, and congratulations for this very innovative auction practices you have in Colombia. Please pass my best regards and best wishes to your minister, including this weekend, the important football match you have this weekend against Uruguay. All the best to you. Please pass my regards to Mr. Minister. He would understand. Now, I am going to a very important country for many reasons, to Costa Rica. Minister Meza, very nice to see you, madam. Yesterday, I mentioned Costa Rica in a different context. We published our hydropower report yesterday to the international press. Huge interest, and I told them that I very much hope that in September, there will be a World Hydropower Congress in Costa Rica, to be able to go there and to tell the colleagues, the members, delegations coming around the world, to talk about the hydropower's different multiple advantages, benefits across the world. And looking forward to see you at that event or another event. Madam Minister, thank you very much for attending our event today. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Fatil. Thank you to Alfonso and to Mauricio for convening this high-level dialogue, and thank you to the excellencies that are participating. Fatil, I will be welcome you all to this very important event and Congress. I think that there's a lot of conversations around the importance of hydropower and the challenges we're facing with climate change. It's really a critical element, and how we're going to be addressing this new risk. Adaptation must be part of the component when we are planning new investments in these areas, and how to really then see the opportunity also to include these other non-conventional renewable energies as part maybe of this adaptation strategy in the energy sector. I think that this could be one of the elements that we should be addressing as part of the Congress as well. But let me now move to these important elements. I think that when we're talking about the new challenges and how renewables can be a pillar in this energy transition, it is very important to talk about the coherence of the whole policy framework. This is something that I think is a lesson learned from the previous years that we are seeing. It's so important to have long-term strategies. And I think that here climate policies are playing a central role. We are launching a lot of long-term strategies, NDCs, but the next step really needs to consider how can we take these goals and have them as concrete investment plans. I think it was Mauricio who mentioned this, and this requires this coherence in the regulatory frameworks and the policy frameworks. This requires that we should be implementing carbon pricing policies, and also that we need to address elements of fossil fuel subsidies as well. This coherence gives clear signals, generates more enabling conditions. And of course, when we're talking about incentives, it's also a critical role for renewables. But it's not only in this part. I think that in countries like ours, with high share of renewables in the power mix, the other element is how can we be promoting the electrification of transport, the electrification of industrial uses, and again, the mobilization of public and private funds for these areas is also so critical. And in this sense, the alignment also of policies in the transport sector, in the industrial sector, is also so critical. And here we need to give clear signals to the private sector so we can be mobilizing also these resources with clear policies on these areas. But I will say that we also need to have a conversation on other areas that sometimes we don't really want to talk about. And I'm referring right now, for example, to gas and natural gas in the region. And there is a conversation that we really need to address, because at the end, if we want to achieve the 1.5 goal that we all committed with the Paris Agreement, we also need to see what will be the strategy also of phasing out the use of all fossil fuels in the region. And there is a potential here for all the region to really be a model based on really renewables. And also here, the conversation, and you just mentioned, Fatil, hydrogen, and the potential that it could have when we are seeing these elements in the future years. So there is just this conversation that we really need to have ambitious goals. We think that the different stakeholders here, the ministries, but IDB, MDBs in general, agencies like yours and OLADE, really we are seeing we really need to have high bars, ambitious, clear goals on these, and to open conversations, even in those areas that are not easy, but that we really need to address. How can we implement specific and concrete measures for the fossil fuel subsidies? And it's, when we have this small fiscal space, this is not an easy conversation, but it's something that we need to have in these dialogues. And I will leave it here. Fatil, thank you for convening this dialogue, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. The last point you mentioned, the how to get the prices and incentives right, is I think the nerve center of all the debate here. And of course, markets are very good to govern the energy system, but sometimes there is a need for governments to take the right measures to channel the energy system in the right direction in the interest of public and the future for the social interests as well. So very many thanks for those excellent remarks, Madam Minister. Now, may I now turn to Mr. Gabriel Arguello, who is the Vice Minister of Ecuador. Mr. Arguello, please go ahead.
Muchísimas gracias. Un saludo cordial a los señores directivos de la Agencia Internacional de Energía, de OLADE y el BID, así como a los señores ministros y viceministros que participan en este diálogo. El uso sostenible de los recursos naturales y la inversión en energías limpias son hoy imperativos para satisfacer la demanda de energía y constan estos dentro de la política energética del gobierno del Ecuador recientemente inaugurado. En el Ecuador se han implantado mecanismos de desarrollo de generación renovable basados en procesos públicos de selección y alianzas público-privadas. Es así que el Ministerio de Energía el año pasado lanzó una convocatoria para la participación de firmas privadas para construir y operar proyectos solares y eólicos, otorgando así títulos habilitantes por periodos de 20 años para la solar y 25 años para la eólica. Mediante este proceso se ha adjudicado la construcción y operación de 324 megavatios de generación renovable, fotovoltaica y eólica, incluyendo en nuestras Islas Galápagos una microred con almacenamiento. Estos proyectos consideran una inversión total de 450 millones de dólares. En el año 2021 se lanzarán 2 nuevos bloques de energía renovable para la participación privada a través de procesos públicos competitivos. El objetivo es lograr mayor penetración de estas tecnologías fotovoltaica, eólica, pequeñas hidros y biomasa, a la vez que se fomenta la inversión privada eficiente y la creación de puestos de trabajo con proyectos distribuidos por todo el Ecuador. El Ministerio de Energía, en coordinación con otras carteras de Estado, ha realizado estudios relacionados con el impacto del cambio climático en las cuencas hídricas de nuestros principales proyectos. Conscientes de este riesgo, estamos emprendiendo una actualización de todo nuestro plan maestro de electricidad, incorporando fuertemente conceptos de descarbonización de la generación, descentralización de las plantas de generación, fomento a la generación distribuida, diversificación de la matriz de recursos primarios, procurando mayor penetración de otros recursos renovables. Además, como el Ecuador cuenta con gran capacidad instalada en centrales hidroeléctricas, el 90% de la demanda actualmente se cubre con hidroelectricidad. Ecuador ha emprendido de manera decidida en el proceso de la transición energética, es decir, que se han emitido regulaciones para el fomento de autogeneración y generación distribuida, todas basadas en energía renovable. Se han promulgado leyes y regulaciones que fomentan de forma clara la eficiencia energética y la movilidad eléctrica. Como se ha indicado, se han adjudicado los 3 primeros procesos públicos de selección de renovable y pronto lanzaremos varios más basados en tecnología que use siempre las renovables. Estamos dando también los primeros pasos para incorporar al hidrógeno en nuestra matriz energética y este tema ha sido muy bien resaltado en este foro. Dentro de todo este contexto, consideramos que la integración regional es fundamental para incrementar la seguridad, la calidad de servicio frente al masivo ingreso de renovables en América Latina. Nuestro país cuenta con una política sobre el uso eficiente, racional y sostenible de energía, articulada en una ley orgánica de eficiencia energética. Sin embargo, es necesario fomentar y profundizar el cambio cultural enfocado en mejorar la calidad de vida mediante el uso eficiente de los recursos y la reducción de emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero. En la actualidad, la movilidad sostenible se está fundamentando en 3 ejes de acción: el fomento al teletrabajo, se procura en las ciudades un ordenamiento territorial adecuado para que los servicios estén más cercanos a través del transporte en ciclorrutas, senderos peatonales, usos de medios masivos y eficientes como el metro, tranvía, trole, y en general se está promocionando la electromovilidad. Hay exoneración de impuestos y tasas arancelarias a los vehículos eléctricos. Desde el Ministerio también se ha socializado las ventajas que conlleva la utilización de la norma ISO 50000 para gestionar y mejorar el desempeño de la industria. Finalmente, es necesario resaltar que se iniciará en breve proyectos muy importantes de eficiencia energética como son la incorporación al sector eléctrico, tanto del sector petrolero como la del camaronero. Muchísimas gracias por su atención.
Thank you very much, Minister Arguello. Of course, Ecuador has significant oil production, but at the same time making huge efforts and successful efforts in terms of providing clean energy to its citizens. Thank you very much for that. Now, this concludes our lead interventions from Latin America. Now, may I invite the Italy, Japan, and US governments to join us by activating the cameras. First, I would like to start with Italy, Ambassador Luca Sabatucci, Director General for Global Affairs and Director General for Latin America at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy. Italy this year has lots of international high-level responsibilities, being the co-president of COP26, critical for all of us. But at the same time, as important as that, if not chairing the G20, and Mr. Sabatucci is sitting on a very, very important chair. Very nice to see you, Mr. Sabatucci. Looking forward to hear your views, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatih. Excellencies, dear friends, hi Virginia. As a matter of fact, I was in the G20 ministerial meeting, foreign ministerial meeting in Matera, Italy, just yesterday. And it is indeed a pleasure to contribute to this roundtable on Latin America's road towards an energy future with net zero emission. A climate neutral future is indeed the only way to avoid the worst consequences of climate change. As the latest international science tells us, we have placed such endeavor at the center of Italy's leading role in this crucial year, as you reminded, as presidency of the G20 and partner of the UK in the COP26. The opportunities offered by renewables, especially if accompanied by the alignment of global financial flows towards a green and sustainable recovery, will be key in ensuring prosperity and environmental sustainability while eradicating energy poverty. The recovery plans that worldwide governments have been adopting to help our economies to bounce back from the downturn caused by the pandemic should be designed to give a boost to the clean energy transition. Undoubtedly, Latin America has a great potential for clean energy and a deep expertise to share. Many countries start from a privileged position with some of the highest shares of renewables in power generation and transport, thanks to the promotion of hydropower and biofuels over the past decades, as remembered by the ministers who intervened before. The private sector will be key to finance the green transition. As the scale of the challenge is global, international actors are searching for attractive investment options and reliable markets. And in this perspective, Italy is well represented in Latin America through its big energy players, which are investing in renewables, electricity grids, sustainable mobility, and green hydrogen. In the transport sector, for instance, a large fleet of e-buses make of Bogota a leading example for electric mobility. Likewise, in Chile, a significant share of the public transport is electrified thanks to innovative forms of cooperation between public and private sectors. In addition, an innovative project has been developed in Sao Paulo, in Brazil, where digitalized networks would allow a greater efficiency of the grid and a higher integration of renewables energy in the overall systems. Renewables and energy transition in the region will be discussed also in our 10th Italy, Latin American and Caribbean Ministerial Conference of October 26th, where you are invited, Fatih. Articulated in 3 panels around the themes of our G20 presidency, People, Planet and Prosperity, the panel Prosperity will specifically be dedicated to these issues under the title Starting Anew from Sustainability, the Circular Economy and Energy Transition at the Heart of the Recovery. And invitations have been forwarded to all the foreign ministers and other major players. Let me just conclude by saying that the IEA Net Zero by 2050 set the way forward to climate neutrality. But each region should adopt specific policies according to national circumstances and capabilities. And the role of OLADE in this respect will be crucial, as well as the necessary financial support from the Inter-American Development Bank. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Luca. I think you made an excellent frame for the countries outside of the Latin America, how they can support the Latin American clean energy transitions. And as you mentioned, every country has a different economic and energy circumstances. They have to choose their own way to reach our common target. Thank you very much, and all the best to you for the difficult G20 deliberations in the next days and weeks to come. May I now turn to Japan? We have Mrs. Fumiya Tsuda, the Principal Deputy Director from the Resource Security Division of Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan. Very nice to have you with us, Mrs. Tsuda. The floor is yours.
Muchísimas gracias, director ejecutivo, doctor Birol, y distinguidos organizadores del evento. Es un honor para mí poder hablar en este evento tan importante y les agradezco a los representantes de los otros países por sus muy informativas intervenciones. Representando el gobierno de Japón, quisiera comentar algunos puntos. Ahora déjenme hablar en inglés. As many participants has already indicated, Latin America has a huge potential for becoming a leader of renewable energy with its abundant natural resources, which are critical for using renewable energy. The outbreak of the COVID-19 has had a devastating impact on the economy and the unemployment rate in the region. Renewable energy project with a targeted energy strategy can support economic revitalization in the region. Japan witnessed this after the devastating Great Eastern earthquake in 2010. After a decade, Fukushima has now converted into a renewable energy hub in Japan and will provide electricity to the Tokyo Olympic Games to be held this summer in Japan. According to the net zero scenario presented by IEA, the total amount of investment in energy sector will amount $5 trillion in 2030, which accounts for double of the current level. This requires huge market expansion as well as political leadership. In this context, I'd like to point out following 2 points. Firstly, for financing renewable energy projects, a fair and transparent development finance is critically important, especially for developing countries. Ensuring responsible investment is also critical to achieve sustainable development goals. Secondly, promoting technologies and innovation is a key for promoting renewable energy. In Latin America, digital transformation is rapidly progressing, and startups with new digital services are expected to emerge. The government must promptly create new business environment so that not only existing players, but also new startups can equally deploy their businesses. Japan International Cooperation Agency, or JICA, is now trying to attract many Japanese startups to Latin America, including in the sector of energy and decarbonization. Moreover, JICA and IDB Lab are considering to jointly pick up the startup companies through a matching program in which talented innovators are invited to give efficient and effective solutions for social challenges in Latin America. Through these programs, we hope that startup ecosystems in both Latin America and Japan will be linked and jointly created. Japan would like to lead the decarbonization effort by providing high-quality technologies in accordance with the circumstances of each country and to help create innovative business environment in the regions, so together we can achieve the net zero goals. Muchísimas gracias por su atención.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Tusada. I mean, Japan has been a nation who was a leader in innovation despite many difficulties. And I remember the energy efficiency. It was not very well known in the world, but after the second oil crisis, Japan pushed the button on energy efficiency and has been a champion and be an example for many countries around the world. After the Fukushima disaster, again, Japan put its acts together and making good moves in the right direction on one hand economic growth, but on the other hand decarbonization of its economy. And your Prime Minister's recent statement on putting a goal for 2050, Prime Minister Suga, was of course excellent. Thank you very much for your wonderful framing of the discussion. Now we go to the United States. I am honored to present my colleague, Mrs. Virginia Palmer, the Acting Assistant Secretary at the Bureau of Energy Resources of the U.S. State Department. Mrs. Palmer is going to tell us her views for the clean energy transition in the Latin America. And I should tell you that I am very much looking forward to see you soon, Virginia, when I come over to the United States. Thank you.
We're anxiously awaiting your arrival, and we'll roll out the red carpet. Good morning, Excellencies, and good afternoon and good evening, IEA friends. I want to start by thanking the three host organizations for bringing us together again. A few weeks ago, President Biden and G7 partners agreed to launch a new global infrastructure initiative, the Build Back Better World, a values-driven, high-standard, and transparent infrastructure partnership to help narrow the more than $40 trillion infrastructure need in the developing world. And we'll support this with our development finance institutions, including the Development Finance Corporation. This effort will help advance our climate efforts as well. And on that note, I must admit that a lot has changed for the U.S. energy policy since I last participated in this meeting in October. Once again, a signatory to the Paris Agreement, we have rejoined the global fight to tackle the climate crisis. And we've put climate change and our response to it at the center of our foreign policy. We've seen a growing understanding of how to effectively integrate clean energy sources and technologies into power systems in a cost-effective and reliable manner. And we've seen capital providers grow very comfortable with investing money in the clean energy space because of returns on investment. Minister Murillo, I'd like to take you up on your proposal to engage on the role of gas in the clean energy transition. I think that's a great idea, and it's a very important conversation. For many years, the United States has stood with you, our partners in Latin America and the Caribbean, to strengthen the regional energy security and assist governments as they modernize their energy sectors and regulatory frameworks. Through the Caribbean Energy Security Initiative and the Caribbean 2020 program, the United States collaborates with Caribbean nations to support the region's push toward a more secure, diverse, and resilient energy sector. We've also announced the scale up of technical assistance to countries participating in RELAC, which the Minister of Brazil noted. In complement, my bureau is working with governments in the region to help increase renewable energy deployment, supporting geothermal development in the Caribbean, competitive tenders for renewables in Argentina and Ecuador, and power sector integration and renewable energy scale up in Central America and the Andes, where we work closely with the IDB. The head of OLADE noted the importance of regulatory modernization and where appropriate harmonization, and we also support that. And we'll amp up our power engagement with US companies who are anxious to work in the region and bring new renewable energy technologies. It's true that there will be some dislocation in traditional energy markets as countries around the world, including ours, shift to lower carbon energy systems. However, there will be new opportunities for economic growth, greater gender equality, and employment in the clean energy arena. One obvious example is energy minerals. Increasing demand for clean energy and electric vehicle technologies will create unprecedented demand for the minerals and metals that make the energy transition possible, many of which are located in this hemisphere. And the IEA's recent report on this is really groundbreaking. To address the challenges of ensuring that supply chains are secure and that we have the minerals and metals to meet this exploding demand, we founded the Energy Resource Governance Initiative along with Australia, Botswana, Canada, and Peru. And the Energy Resources Governance Initiative works on above ground governance of mining sectors to ensure that there are resilient supply chains and available private investment at a high standard so that communities benefit and your economies will benefit. We've provided about $10.5 million in capacity building assistance in that effort, and Australia has just made a $1 million Australian contribution to the effort. We bring countries together to share best practices, and I hope countries on the call will consider joining us, whether participating in the capacity building programs or delivering them, because there are a lot of good models in the hemisphere. We stand ready to collaborate with our neighbors and friends in Latin America and the Caribbean, and as we seek to promote investment opportunities for stronger and stronger renewable uptake and post-pandemic growth. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Palma. Many thanks that you also highlighted the critical importance of collaboration among the nations in order to reach our energy and climate goals. In that respect, I am so thankful to U.S. government to chair the next International Energy Agency ministerial meeting in February 2022. So with this, I would like to thank all the colleagues who have contributed to this lively but important debate. May I now turn to Alfonso to lead us for the next session, please. Alfonso.
Thank you very much, Dr. Virol. It's a pleasure to moderate this second session. We are out of time, and so I invite Argentina, Chile, Panama, Peru, and Timur Gul from the International Energy Agency to activate your cameras. Well, this session will be regarding the role of the hydrogen in the energy matrix of the Latin American region. And the International Energy Agency has a wonderful document prepared considering the role of the hydrogen in the energy matrix of the future as a key player in the decarbonization of the global energy matrix. The Latin American and the Caribbean region has a very important role in this future scenario. Well, Dr. Gul, the floor is yours, and for the presentation of the document.
Yeah, thank you very much, Executive Secretary Blanco, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here today and to address this roundtable to share some of our analysis and insights on, in fact, the relevance of hydrogen deployment to achieve net zero emissions from the energy sector by 2050, building on the global roadmap that we recently released and that was also referred to in the last session, and then also to discuss a bit what this may mean for Latin America, somewhat previewing some of the work that we will be publishing in August. Let me start with the global picture. You're all aware that hydrogen is not new to the energy scene. We had a series of false starts, if you wish, for the deployment of hydrogen, but it's now increasingly clear that hydrogen can play the role of a critical enabler of a transition to net zero emissions in the global energy sector. It is already used today in some parts of the energy sector, most notably in the chemical industry, such as fertilizer production in particular, as well as in the refining industry. But to reach our global climate goals, the use of hydrogen must expand to many more sectors. In our Net Zero 2050 pathway that we released on the 18th of May, the use of low carbon hydrogen globally expands rapidly into many different sectors, from heavy duty trucks to ships and airplanes, from refineries and chemical production to iron and steel production, as well as power generation. The problem that we are facing today with hydrogen is, of course, that it's not a low carbon fuel at all. It is actually linked at a global level to 900 million tons of CO2 emissions, which on aggregate is of the order of the emissions of the United Kingdom and Indonesia combined. Cleaning up existing uses of hydrogen in refining, in the chemical industry, fertilizer production in particular, is therefore a near-term priority that governments will be working towards. This will not require, and that's the good part of this effort that lies ahead of us, this will not require the build out of new infrastructure. If governments incentivize the use of low carbon hydrogen in these existing uses, in the refining sector, in the chemicals industry, however, then this can help build up the economies of scale that we will need to bring down the cost of low carbon hydrogen production for electrolyzers that will help to produce renewable hydrogen, as well as for hydrogen that is produced from natural gas with CCUS. Now, Latin America can play an important role. It can be an important contributor to tapping into the potential of low carbon hydrogen. Latin America already today consumes significant amounts of hydrogen, mostly for oil refining and for producing chemicals. Virtually all of this hydrogen is produced from fossil fuels, mostly from natural gas. The region has the opportunity to build on this existing demand to kickstart low carbon hydrogen production. Why would Latin America possibly want to do so? First, of course, because it can help Latin American countries to decarbonize their energy consumption beyond the already very clean power mix, in particular, of course, in refining and chemicals, but it can also help integrate further renewable energies by providing additional flexibility options to the grid. And second, Latin America is, of course, a global leader in renewable energy use, as we heard in the last session, and so it can use its world-class renewable resources and export sunshine via hydrogen to help accelerate the global transition to net zero emissions. In fact, our global analysis suggests that many of the parts of Latin America could produce some of the most competitive hydrogen from renewables in the world. And so this could be a means to capture emerging economic opportunities from hydrogen demand that other countries are currently working to build up and that are not as blessed with renewable sources as Latin America. Obviously, this will require closely watching how quickly or not other countries build up low carbon hydrogen demand. All of this will, of course, be a significant challenge. And so for governments that are interested to explore the opportunity that hydrogen may offer, there are 5 key aspects to work towards. First, the governments need to define a long-term vision for hydrogen in the energy system. Chile was the first country in the region to publish a national hydrogen strategy less than a year ago, and more than 18 countries in the world are currently developing their national strategies, including many here in the Latin America region. This is an important way to anchor the expectations of the industry, of the investors, giving a clear signal of what the governments may want to achieve in the context of the other goals for reaching net zero emissions on the one hand, but also while realizing a secure and affordable energy transition for all. Going from strategy building to action, it will then be important to identify the most promising near-term opportunities and support the early deployment of technologies in key sectors. Third, many of the technologies we will need for the production and use of hydrogen are not mature yet today, so R&D, pilot projects, skill development will need to be an early focus in order to help drive down costs and increase the local understanding of the technologies for the production and use of hydrogen that we may be looking out for in the future. Fourth, certification mechanisms are also an early priority to incentivize demand for low carbon hydrogen, and they need to be, of course, internationally harmonized from the outset to ensure that Latin America can be tapping into emerging trade opportunities. And finally, regional and international collaboration are, of course, key to accelerate hydrogen development. We are at the IEA ready, of course, to support Latin Americans, countries in hydrogen policy dialogue with our technical and analytical expertise. And we are, of course, very proud to support and facilitate global discussions through the various different initiatives that we are leading, such as through the Clean Energy Ministerial's Hydrogen Initiative. With that, thank you very much for your attention. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gould. It's clear that the hydrogen will have a very important role in the near future in the global energy matrix, in the way to the net zero globally. And we have a lot of resources. There are a lot of opportunities to work in the development of the hydrogen after the pandemic, and as a key tool in order to have a sustainable recovery in the Latin American and the Caribbean region. I invite Dr. Javier Papa, Undersecretary of Planning, Secretariat of Energy in Argentina. Argentina has developed a strategy regarding hydrogen recently, and we want to know how is the hydrogen part of the energy planning in the Argentinian energy sector. It's a pleasure to have you here, Javier. Greetings from Quito, Ecuador, and the floor is yours, Javier.
Okay, thank you, Executive Secretary Alfonso, and good morning, good afternoon to all distinguished colleagues. Let me start this brief intervention by saying that as of 2020, natural gas accounts for nearly 60% of Argentina's total internal energy supply. As you know, this resource has multiple uses. For instance, it is used for heating in the residential sector, in the industrial sector, in thermal power plants, and as a fuel for vehicles. In Argentina, we have also a large gas pipeline network consisting of more than 16,000 kilometers of length, as well as many interconnections with our neighboring countries, thus facilitating regional integration. And this is particularly important because hydrogen in concentrations lower than, say, 10% may be injected into the grid and blended with natural gas to be transported without making any major adjustments to the grid. Now, in terms of opportunities for the production of the so-called blue hydrogen, the Vaca Muerta field in southern Argentina is currently under exploitation, and it is considered the world's second largest non-conventional natural gas reserve, which can be used to scale up the production of hydrogen. We are already producing about 400,000 tons of hydrogen per year, mainly for industrial uses and for the production of fertilizers. At the moment, more than 80% of such production is gray hydrogen, extracted from natural gas steam and reforming process. Such hydrogen is considered a transition fuel since it generates lower emission levels than more contaminating liquid fossil fuels. And we can say that this is our starting point, right, for the scaling up of a stronger and cleaner hydrogen economy that would supply in the future both local and export markets. Now, as a result of the momentum that hydrogen is gaining as a clean energy carrier, we intend to move forward with the production of blue hydrogen in the medium term, adopting technologies to capture CO2 emissions produced during the steam reforming process of natural gas, right? That's on one side. On another hand, and in terms of opportunities for the production of green hydrogen, the northeast region of our country shows the highest solar irradiation levels in the world. In addition to the strong winds in the Patagonia region, which offer a great potential for wind power generation. And green hydrogen can also be coupled with hydropower, as you mentioned at the beginning of this event, which is also abundant in Argentina in our path towards a clean and more inclusive energy transition. So just to give you some figures, last April, for example, more than 13% of the total electric power generation was reached from non-conventional renewable energies, which combined with hydropower would reach up to 35% of electric power generation from renewable sources. It is also worth mentioning that Argentina already has a legal framework from the promotion of renewable energy sources for electricity generation, and a law that sets forth the guidelines for the promotion of distributed generation from renewable energy sources. So with all this in place, and once macroeconomic stabilization has been achieved in the country, we expect to accelerate the deployment of renewable energy and hence the development of green hydrogen as well. But despite the momentum that hydrogen is gaining globally, we have to be honest that there are also a number of challenges ahead, right? From a technological point of view, and taking into consideration the need to meet the future demand, which is currently partially uncertain, hydrogen poses a big challenge for the energy planning, right? Therefore, and as part of the Hydrogen Interministerial Roundtable launched by the Argentine government, we are now conducting a series of studies aimed at understanding the exact potential for the production, consumption, and export of hydrogen in Argentina, as well as its costs and future prices, considering various technologies. Additionally, the Secretariat of Energy in the country has begun to officially gather information and statistics related to hydrogen production and consumption at firm and regional level, which can eventually feed into our prospective energy scenario towards a cleaner and more inclusive energy transition. And at the same time, we are currently establishing strategic partnerships with several countries interested in mutual cooperation on hydrogen. And we have already signed memorandum of understanding with some of them. And by the way, I'm glad to announce that we are just about to sign in a joint work program with the International Energy Agency to promote hydrogen market development, among other initiatives. So all in all, we can affirm that Argentina is very well placed to address the challenges that come along with this new energy frontier, so that hydrogen can turn into clean and sustainable energy carrier with the potential of generating multiplier effects on our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Undersecretary Papa. You mentioned a lot of issues that are very interesting. You mentioned the blue hydrogen that is a very important carrier to consider in our region the CO2 capture and how to manage this kind of technologies and how to work in the production of blue hydrogen and how to include in the Argentinian energy matrix. A lot of topics that you mentioned that are very interesting. Well, let's follow with Francisco Javier Lopez, Undersecretary of Energy in Chile. Francisco, welcome to this panel. It's a pleasure to have you here. Chile has developed recently a very impressive hydrogen strategy, and well, the floor is yours to give us some issues regarding the strategies and some insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon. I want to start by thanking Dr. Fatih Birol, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, Mr. Alfonso Blanco, Executive Secretary of the Latin America Energy Organization, and Mr. Claudio Claver-Caron, President of the International American Development Bank, for inviting me to share Chile's reflection on green hydrogen and its development in Latin America. The energy sector is the main emitter of greenhouse gases, accounting for 77% of the total emissions in 2018. However, the energy transition we are undergoing has put the energy sector at the center of the world's decarbonization as a means to tackle climate change. In 2019, Chile committed to being carbon neutral by 2050, an ambitious goal that involves collaborative work of both the public and the private sector. In order to achieve this goal, we have developed a broad strategy which includes detailed analysis of the prioritization of the measures according to their cost and efficiency. Our plan is extremely ambitious, but in a sense it's simple. To clean our electricity generation capacity by increasing the amount of renewable energy, the withdrawal of the coal-fired power plants by 2040, to promote the energy efficiency, to replace fossil fuels with electricity across different sectors, and to develop the green hydrogen industry. Green hydrogen will be necessary to attain carbon neutral economies, and it presents the unique opportunity to decarbonize hard-to-abate sectors where electricity is not competitive or as efficient. We expect to reduce our domestic greenhouse gas emissions by up to 20% and aid another economies around the world in reducing their own emissions through this energy carrier. Our expectations and the opportunities for green hydrogen are based on the immense potential of low-cost renewable energy, as well on our strong institutions, transparent and non-discriminatory regulation, and advanced energy markets, leading Chile to be one of the most suitable countries to produce this fuel. The untapped renewable energy potential, which adds more than 70 times the installed capacity we have today, presents the ability to produce over 160 megatons of green hydrogen per year. It has been highlighted by the International Energy Agency. To exploit the full potential of this clean energy carrier, we have laid out a national green hydrogen strategy, which main goals are having 5 gigawatts of electrolysis capacity in development and in construction by 2025, by producing a green hydrogen and at a low cost below $1.5 per kilogram by 2030, the cheapest green hydrogen on the planet, and being among the top 3 leading exporters of green hydrogen and its derivatives by 2040. The opportunities of green hydrogen are not only limited to the environmental benefits, it also comes with the direct economic benefits by creating a new clean economic sector. Furthermore, green hydrogen development will be a catalyst for job creation, as in Chile we expect it will be created between 100,000 and 500,000 jobs in the entire value chain by 2050. The shorter term opportunities for green hydrogen development are expected to come from large domestic application with an earliest economic break-even, for example, by replacing imported ammonia for local production, replacing green hydrogen used in oil refineries, for gas blending, and for heavy and long distance transportations. To untap these opportunities and develop the hydrogen industry, we have foreseen in our plan the need of the development of a clear, stable, and current regulation, public action as financing, incentives, or the promotion of infrastructure developments to kickstart the production and create a tangible demand, promote research projects on hydrogen technologies, and develop local talent and skills required for the hydrogen industry. Furthermore, there's a clear need of coordination and partnership with domestic and international actors to promote the industry growth and supply chain development. In that sense, we have signed an MOU with Singapore, the Port of Rotterdam, and recently announced agreement with Germany. We seek to replicate these bilateral cooperations with other target markets around the region and the globe as well. Positive news, and as a sign that the green hydrogen economy is being built today, are the more than 40 projects that are in different stages of development in Chile. This means that the private sector, like us, are rising to challenge and necessity for green hydrogen. Finally, I would like to thank you again for this invitation to discuss these important issues for Chile and Latin America and all the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Lopez, for this speech about the hydrogen in Chile. I have some particular topics to highlight. Chile has a goal to be the most cost-effective producer of hydrogen around the world, with the huge amount of renewables in the north, with a very low cost of the renewables, and that is very impressive. And how you manage the role of the hydrogen within the energy strategy of the country, including the economical benefits of the hydrogen production in the country. That's a very impressive strategy for the hydrogen in our region, and we congratulate Chile for the advances in that sense. Well, I invite Mr. Jorge Rivera, Secretary of Energy of Panama, and the floor is yours, Jorge.
Thank you very much, Alfonso, and good morning and good afternoon to all the viewers. It's a pleasure for us to be here and to share some ideas of what we were doing around the hydrogen. And I'm going to switch to Spanish in order to share the ideas more clearly. Hace casi exactamente 9 meses estuvimos reunidos en la primera ronda ministerial de este tipo. Esta es la segunda, en el mes de octubre, el 7 de octubre del año pasado. Y en aquella ocasión nos reuníamos en el medio del impacto, digamos, más directo de la pandemia. En ese momento hablábamos sobre cómo estábamos atendiendo ese impacto de la pandemia en nuestro sector de energía, y bueno, cómo pensábamos delinear esos procesos, esa senda de recuperación económica desde el sector de energía, pues bajo el concepto de Build Back Better, de reconstruir mejor y de forma más concluyente. En aquel momento recuerdo que en las reflexiones nuestras planteábamos la posibilidad o la aspiración en torno al tema del hidrógeno, que estaba surgiendo con muchísima fuerza, muy rápido, y con temas, pues, pasos muy concretos, el lograr realmente esto. Y celebramos, pues, que ya estamos en cerca solamente en 9 meses, ya estamos con un panel y tenemos toda una hoja de ruta que se están desarrollando en el tema de el hidrógeno. Es parte de la agenda de transición energética global, es importantísima para nosotros como parte de la agenda de transición aprobada en noviembre del año pasado por el gobierno. Además, llevamos adelante un estudio de impacto económico con apoyo de las Naciones Unidas, el Programa de Naciones Unidas para el Medio Ambiente, Euroclima, para desarrollar este proceso de recuperación económica. Las cifras son impresionantes, ¿no? Estamos estimando que para el 2024 pudiéramos tener 15.000 nuevos empleos asociados a la transición energética, ahorros por $500 millones en la economía, 500 millones de dólares de ahorros posibles en subsidios del Estado, alrededor de 20.000 personas menos que tengan que utilizar instalaciones de salud por afectaciones respiratorias solamente al 2024. Nosotros nos buscamos consolidar como un hub regional de energías verdes. Alrededor del 75% de nuestra matriz eléctrica es renovable entre hidroeléctrica, solar y eólica. En los meses del verano, Panamá llega a tener en horas pico alrededor de un 30% de su producción energética de solar y de eólica. Estamos en esa ruta del hidrógeno verde, es parte realmente de esta estrategia. Queremos poner a disposición esas ventajas competitivas de nuestro nuevo canal, convertirnos en un hub logístico del hidrógeno verde a nivel regional, poner esa infraestructura y los servicios a la orden de nuestra región y de nuestro país para cortar las rutas de transporte marítimo que se están desarrollando alrededor del hidrógeno. Es importante además que generemos este conocimiento de forma sinérgica, ¿no? Y para nosotros nuestra posición geográfica es nuestro principal recurso natural. En función de eso, esperemos que en el tercer trimestre de este año ya contemos con las bases para una hoja de ruta con relación al rol de Panamá en el mercado regional y global del hidrógeno. Ahí estamos teniendo un apoyo fundamental del BID para el desarrollo de esta hoja de ruta. Tenemos que transformar nuestras economías. Muchos usuarios del Canal de Panamá ya han firmado convenios de cooperación para producción y exportación de hidrógenos a otras regiones, así que estamos alineados en ese rol inicial. Por supuesto, la demanda de electricidad necesaria para producir, almacenar y comprimir ese hidrógeno verde va a incrementar la demanda de energías verdes y estamos apostando hacia eso. Sin embargo, queremos resaltar, el hidrógeno es una tecnología, por supuesto, en proceso de florecimiento en América Latina, en el Caribe, ¿no? Nos encontramos en un momento histórico fundamental, pero requerimos dar ese paso adicional. Estamos en un diálogo abierto que es fundamental, pero podemos ir realmente a desarrollar una estrategia, una visión regional que nos permita desarrollar de forma conjunta como región ese posicionamiento nuestro que necesitamos. Así como hace 9 meses propusimos el enfoque regional y vemos los resultados concretos que hemos tenido en estos meses muy rápido en tema de hidrógeno verde a nivel regional. La Agencia Internacional de Energía, con este informe que ha desarrollado, en el cual participamos, con el BID en ese apoyo que está haciendo a diversos países en el desarrollo de sus hojas de ruta, pues es fundamental. Pudiéramos tener, así como en el panel anterior se hablaba de RELAC en torno a las energías renovables en nuestras matrices eléctricas, asimismo podemos tener un H2LAC, un H2LAC, que nos permita también tener un compromiso regional con tema de hidrógeno verde. Ahí estamos más que comprometidos a fortalecerlo y por supuesto que sea parte de la recuperación económica que todos estamos necesitando en este momento. El futuro no se espera, Alfonso, el futuro se construye y lo estamos construyendo juntos. Eso es lo más importante. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rivera. You mentioned a lot of issues to highlight in your intervention. The role of Panama in the region with a developed market with of the hydrogen around the world. The role of the Panama Channel will be crucial, and the hub of the that you are presenting of Panama in the region will be crucial for the hydrogen market, global market development. And we check your proposal of the H2LAC initiative, and we will discuss after this session. And it's very important for us. Yes, what you mentioned about the advances in the hydrogen during the last months, because we 9 months ago we were talking about the sustainable recovery, and now the hydrogen is part of this strategy for the sustainable recovery, and we are we are very happy with the regional advances. Well, I invite the presentation on a video of the Minister of Industry and Energy and Mining of Uruguay. He's not present in this session, but he sent us a video regarding the strategy of Uruguay for the development of the hydrogen in the country. Let's present the video sent by the Minister Omar Paganini from Uruguay.
It's a pleasure to be here in the second Ministerial Roundtable and to share this instance with my colleagues from Panama, Argentina, Chile, Peru, and the European Union. Thanks to OLADE-IDB and IEA for this invitation and the permanent support to our country. We are working very well with the three institutions in very close collaboration. There is no doubt that hydrogen will take a very important role for the decarbonization at the global level, and that Latin America has the opportunity to be on board. At the beginning of this century, Uruguay had a global supply matrix strongly dependent on fossil fuels, to 63%. Electricity generation relied heavily on hydropower and thermal backup plants that were used long time of the year. As a result of a national energy policy starting in 2010, with different instruments to promote private investment, Uruguay generates today 97% of its electricity from renewable sources, with hydro, wind, biomass, and solar as main support. As a consequence, our global energy matrix has changed. Today, 63% is renewable and 37% comes from fossil fuels, mainly in transportation and industry. Also, Uruguay has changed its role in the region from an energy importer to a net energy exporter, most of it renewable electricity. Since 2013, Uruguay has maintained its performance without interruption. But our potential of renewable energy is much bigger. We need to transform still our transportation and industrial sectors. While battery electric vehicles are the way to go in cars and small fleets, hydrogen is what we need to decarbonize long distance and freight. That is why we're strongly betting on its development. Do we have renewable energy availability? Well, yes. In wind power, we have today 1.5 gigawatts installed, but the potential capability is much bigger, up to 30 gigawatts onshore and more than 250 offshore. In solar energy, our local capacity is just half a gigawatt, but the potential comes up to 400 gigawatts. Also, and it must be underscored, we have a strong complementarity between solar and wind. In seasonal and daily cycles, you can see that these two sources complement each other very well. This means that electrolyzers in our country can achieve 60% of uptime or capacity factor, which is very important to achieve a low cost of the hydrogen generation production. So we are aiming at internal use of energy, of hydrogen, as we said, but also to export. We want to be an exporter of green hydrogen in the future. In that sense, we just finished a collaboration with the Port of Rotterdam. We made a first approximation to the costs and feasibility of Uruguay as an exporter country to Europe by 2030, and the results are quite exciting. Also, we have a local market to develop heavy-duty transportation, green fertilizer, and maritime transports. We are working in all these areas to create the conditions for the development of these markets and supply. And this we are doing, outlining a national strategy for local demand and exports. Uruguay's Green H2 strategy is underway, and it's with the support of IDB and international consultants. It will be ready by the end of 2021. Complementarily with this, we are promoting our first H2 pilot project in partnership with the private and public sector, a small-scale project aimed at heavy-duty transportation. We consider this project as part of our learning curve, and we are aiming at a real investment that can achieve economic sustainability. CAPEX will be supported with special conditions from the government, but we aim at a private consortium that can be able to install and operate the whole system. We have finished in May our dialogue process at Data Room with private companies to set the conditions for a bidding process that will take place in the last quarter of this year. We are having interest from more than 36 companies, and no doubt the bidding process will be a success. This is what I wanted to tell you about Uruguay's strategy to be a player in the global concert with green hydrogen. And also, we are happy to note that Latin America as a whole has a new role to play in these very strategic developments. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's continue after the presentation of the strategy of Uruguay regarding hydrogen. I want to close the participation and thanks our ministers and undersecretaries to be part of this panel. And I want to close this panel with a final remarks, including all the interventions. We saw 4 different cases of the hydrogen strategy. The 4 countries has a complete different approach and a complete different situation of the energy sector, and the hydrogen has a different role in the development of the energy matrix of our countries. And my final remarks regarding the interventions are related to the difference between the situation of the energy sector in our region, but the hydrogen has a space in the strategy of each of the 4 countries that presented the advances in the strategies for the penetration of the hydrogen in the energy matrix. Thank you very much, Dr. Papa, Francisco Lopez from Chile, Secretary Rivera, and Minister Paganini for your interventions. Now, I want to say that we have a Mary Warlick in representation of the International Energy Agency in the place of Mr. Fatih Birol. Welcome, Mary, to this panel. Now, I invite Ms. Lovillo from the European Commission, Spain, Ms. Urbanas from US, and Mr. Juan Bautista Sanchez from Spain to activate your cameras and welcome to this panel. First of all, I invite Ms. Cristina Lovillo Borrero, Director of Energy Policy Strategy and Coordination of the European Commission, to give your insights. Thank you and welcome.
Muchas gracias, Alfonso, y muchas gracias a la Agencia Internacional de la Energía, a OLADE y al Instituto Interamericano de Desarrollo por haber organizado estas jornadas que son tan oportunas en el momento en el que nos encontramos de transición energética. Como todos saben, la Unión Europea tiene unos objetivos muy ambiciosos en política de cambio climático. Nos hemos comprometido a reducir un 55% de las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero en el año 2030 y alcanzar la neutralidad climática en el año 2050. Estos objetivos ambiciosos requieren una serie de medidas que estamos preparando internamente. Y estas medidas consisten en 3 pilares básicamente, en políticas propuestas que van a influir en el precio del carbono, en propuestas que se van a referir a una mayor proliferación de las energías renovables y de la eficiencia energética, y tercero, políticas de fiscalidad energética. En el contexto de las energías renovables, tenemos absoluta convicción en la Unión Europea que necesitamos un alto porcentaje de hidrógeno verde. El año pasado la Comisión Europea adoptó la estrategia del hidrógeno, que proporciona una visión muy clara de hacia dónde nos dirigimos en concreto en el desarrollo de esta energía renovable. De hecho, nuestro objetivo es alcanzar 40 gigawatts de potencia instalada en el año 2030, de manera que la proporción del hidrógeno en el mix energético europeo pasaría de el porcentaje que tenemos actualmente, que es muy bajo, entre 2 y 4%, a 13-14% en el año 2050, con una capacidad instalada de alrededor de 500 gigawatts. Nosotros estamos absolutamente convencidos de que el hidrógeno tiene un gran potencial en el proceso de transición energética y queremos cooperar con todos los países que están también comprometidos en este proceso de transición energética. Queremos trabajar en el ámbito multilateral, en los foros internacionales. En concreto, me gustaría decir brevemente en qué proyectos concretos estamos trabajando. La Comisión Europea actualmente está facilitando el marco de cooperación sobre hidrógeno verde junto con la Agencia Internacional de Energías Renovables, IRENA. También codirige la misión Hidrógeno Limpio, que fue acuñada durante el Mission Innovation junto a Chile, y también hemos iniciado una coalición global de puertos de hidrógeno durante la Clean Energy Ministerial, también organizado por Chile. Es por ello que nosotros queremos reafirmar aquí nuestro compromiso constante de colaborar con todos los países de América Latina y el Caribe en futuros foros, como es el caso de la futura cumbre sobre medio ambiente, clima y energía, del G20, que tendrá lugar en Nápoles en 22 y 23 de julio. La Unión Europea y los países de América Latina y Caribe tenemos que acordar posiciones sobre el papel que el hidrógeno tendrá en el futuro sistema energético, y también realizar un intercambio de información, desarrollar estándares comunes y mecanismos de certificación, y reforzar también nuestra cooperación en I+D. Me gustaría concluir recordando que el hidrógeno verde es un punto fundamental para profundizar en nuestras relaciones entre Europa y los países de América Latina y Caribe. Nosotros desde aquí estamos convencidos de que estos países se convertirán en proveedores muy importantes también de hidrógeno verde para la Unión Europea. Muchas gracias por su atención y hasta pronto. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cristina Lovillo. It's a pleasure to have your intervention, and completely agree about and I am also convinced about the necessity of increase the relations regarding the our region, and between our region and the European region, in order to develop the hydrogen in the Latin American region. I invite Mr. Juan Bautista Sánchez Pañuela, Deputy Director for Hydrocarbons and in Ministry for Ecological Transition in Spain. Welcome, Mr. Sánchez, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Alfonso. Good afternoon in Europe. Buenos días en Latinoamérica. Ministros, distinguidos colegas. Es un gran placer para España poder participar en esta mesa redonda ministerial y en particular poder intervenir en español en un foro internacional de primer nivel como este. Muchas gracias al secretariado de la Agencia Internacional de la Energía, a OLADE y al Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo por la amable invitación. El Gobierno de España aprobó en octubre de 2020 nuestro documento estratégico titulado Hoja de Ruta del Hidrógeno, una apuesta por el hidrógeno renovable. La preparamos en plena primera oleada de la pandemia, en paralelo a la estrategia del hidrógeno de la Unión Europea, que ha mencionado Cristina hace unos minutos, y para diseñar la hoja de ruta nacional nos planteamos en todo momento una única pregunta. ¿Qué valor añadido diferencial puede aportar España para alcanzar los objetivos europeos? En el día de hoy le damos una vuelta de tuerca a esta cuestión y nos preguntamos cómo podemos contribuir al diálogo bidireccional en ambos sentidos entre América Latina y Europa. Mencionaré brevemente algunos elementos en los que creo que podemos aportar. El primero es la oferta. España cuenta con recursos naturales para producir electricidad renovable, en particular de origen solar y eólico, que está llamada a ser la electricidad más competitiva de Europa en los próximos años. El 74% de nuestra producción eléctrica será renovable en 2030 y construiremos capacidad de generación adicional para la producción de hidrógeno renovable. El segundo elemento es la demanda. En España actualmente existe una demanda de hidrógeno potente, en torno a 500.000 de toneladas anuales, que utilizan como materia prima sectores como el refino o los fertilizantes. Y su sustitución por hidrógeno renovable ejercerá de motor durante una primera fase de este sector. Posteriormente vendrán otros usos, el almacenamiento energético y otros usos del hidrógeno renovable y combustibles derivados en sectores que son difíciles de electrificar. Transporte marítimo, la aviación, los ferrocarriles todavía no electrificados o los procesos industriales de alta temperatura. El tercer elemento con el que contamos es la tecnología. España se ha fijado un objetivo de al menos 4 gigavatios de capacidad de electrólisis instalada en 2030, un 10% de ese objetivo europeo, lo que requiere escalar nuestras capacidades de fabricación de electrolizadores, compresores y otros equipos y tecnologías clave. Y el cuarto elemento que tenemos en nuestra mano es el conocimiento. El sistema español de I+D+I dispone de organismos y centros de investigación con una larga trayectoria, como por ejemplo el Centro Nacional del Hidrógeno, con tecnólogos con amplia experiencia y con empresas energéticas que han formado en los últimos años equipos de ingeniería potentes dedicados en exclusiva a estos proyectos de hidrógeno renovable que están empezando a nacer. América Latina cuenta también con estos 4 elementos, lo hemos escuchado en este panel, pero cada país, en eso coincido con muchas de las intervenciones, no puede construir este sector de forma aislada. Necesitamos sinergias, aprovechar las fortalezas de cada uno, acordar un lenguaje común, estándares técnicos e instrumentos regulatorios para trazar toda la cadena de valor del hidrógeno renovable. El diálogo transatlántico ya ha comenzado. Estamos conversando con varios gobiernos latinoamericanos y esperamos continuar haciéndolo con todos ellos en los próximos meses para identificar esas sinergias y mejores prácticas. Todo ello mano a mano con las estrategias y diálogos europeos. El objetivo final debe ser favorecer un flujo permanente de tecnología, de inversión y de conocimiento que permita a Europa y a Latinoamérica ser una referencia en el hidrógeno verde, creando cadenas de valor duraderas en nuestras economías. El mensaje es simple, hagámoslo realidad. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Mr. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanchez, for your intervention, and I agree with your completely with your final message. Let's do it for a reality for our for the Latin American and the European region. It's a pleasure to have Ms. Elizabeth Urbanas, Acting Assistant Secretary for International Affairs in the Department of Energy of the United States. Welcome to this panel, Ms. Elizabeth, and the floor is yours. You are muted, Mr.
Thank you, Alfonso. It's good to see you again. Hopefully I'll also be seeing you in person soon. And Mary, we miss you in Washington, but we're so happy you're there at IEA. And I also want to say hello to the many friends and colleagues throughout Latin America that have spoken today. I hope that we can all meet again soon, whether that's virtually, but I would particularly like to meet you in person here in Washington or down in your beautiful part of the world. I'm very excited to be speaking today with this group. Obviously, right now I'm the Acting Assistant Secretary for International Affairs at the Department of Energy, but as I think many of you know, I'm normally the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Asia and the Americas, and so the Americas have a very big place in my heart. So I'm very pleased to be talking about opportunities for working together on the hydrogen economy with partners in Latin America. And as we have heard from all of the great speakers that went before me, that hydrogen is going to be absolutely critical to reach net zero in our economies and in our countries, not just in the US, obviously, where it will have to be important, but also in Latin America. It's an important fuel. It's a flexible fuel. We can use it in transportation. We can use it in industrial processes. It's portable, it's energy dense. We could go on and on and on. And I think the people who've spoken before have really pointed out the advantages of including hydrogen and utilizing it heavily because of not only its cleanliness, but also the ease of actually generating it. So those are all important. And I will tell you, I've been in the US government for 22 years. And I remember the last time we really pushed hydrogen and back in the Bush administration. And I remember I would ride the metro train with my son home every day. And we would look out the window and there was a hydrogen filling station that was in Washington, DC, not too far down the road. And it was there for many years and then it disappeared. So hydrogen is something that the Department of Energy and the US government has been working on for a very long time, even at the commercial level, going back 15 years to the Bush administration. It's come and go, but I think for the Department of Energy now, we really see it as the future. And because the Department of Energy in the United States is about research and development and cutting edge technologies and making things affordable and commercial, we are really focused right now and have been for the past several years on making hydrogen a big part of the energy landscape, both in the United States, but also globally. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the United States quickly, and then highlight some of the multilateral engagement we have, which has been mentioned by many others, and say up front that we are looking for opportunities to collaborate with countries in Latin America on hydrogen. And as we as we reboot our interactions with countries in Latin America with this administration, this will be a high priority for us at the Department of Energy. So the first thing I want to talk about is what was recently announced by the Department of Energy. It's called an Energy Earthshots Initiative. Okay, so we're shooting not for the moon, but for Earth, to improve the Earth, but it's an all hands on deck initiative. The DOE has recently announced a hydrogen shot that seeks to remove barriers to quickly deploy clean energy technologies at scale. That's the core of what we do here. As part of the 2022 budget request, the Biden administration has requested roughly $400 million for various hydrogen related efforts at the department. This represents a very significant increase from years past. The Hydrogen Shot Initiative seeks to reduce the cost of clean hydrogen by 80% in 1 decade. So that's a significant reduction in a short period of time. And we've got the scientists and the engineers to work on it. Right now, hydrogen from renewable energy costs about $5 per kilogram compared to hydrogen derived from fossil energy sources, which costs between $1 and $3 per kilogram here in the US. The Hydrogen Shot program establishes a framework and foundation for clean hydrogen development in the American Jobs Plan, which includes support for demonstration projects as well. Likewise, realization of the hydrogen shot will deliver on good paying, clean energy jobs and capitalize on opportunities in the transport sector. Clean hydrogen fuels are viewed as a promising technology for use by the transport sector, such as powering cargo ships and large trucks, and of course for energy storage where we're already using it in fuel cells. 10 million metric tons of hydrogen are currently produced in the United States every year. I think we're one of the largest producers. A lot of that is from centralized reforming of natural gas, but we are moving very quickly at developing and expanding the generation of green hydrogen, which we've heard a lot about today. With the appropriate policies and private sector scale up by 2050, the US hydrogen economy could grow to an estimated $750 billion per year in revenue and 3.4 million jobs just in the US. Latin America, we know, has a huge potential for blue hydrogen production and green hydrogen as well. And given its synergy with a bountiful hydropower and other resources in the region, as others have said, it's really a huge opportunity for the hemisphere in general. We know that Chile is leading right now in Latin America on hydrogen, and they have announced their plan last year. And also we know that they've set their sight on being the cheapest producer of green hydrogen in the world by 2030. That's great. I would love it if we beat them, but if we don't, that's okay. But other countries in Latin America are also going to benefit from green hydrogen in many ways. And I want to talk a little bit about the resources that the Department of Energy brings to bear when we do partner with countries, particularly in areas like hydrogen in Latin America. We have 17 national laboratories located throughout the United States. Many efforts are going on at these labs right now, researching and developing applications for hydrogen. And also our national laboratories are available to work with outside entities. Including foreign entities like countries in Latin America, or companies or entities within your countries in Latin America. When such partnerships align with the missions of DOE, then we can make sure that we get those kind of partners engaged with our laboratories. DOE, they also, although agreements are non-binding, they're important vehicles for collaboration, and we have agreements already with a number of countries in Latin America, and we could expand the work programs to include hydrogen. We're also engaged in a number of the international multilateral fora on hydrogen. We are a founding member of the International Partnership for Hydrogen and Fuel Cells, IPHE, very active in that. And very happy to have attended certainly the ministerial, the important meetings in Chile, which were held recently, and also are very excited to work with other partners like Brazil and Costa Rica, who are the member nations, some of them member nations of this group. Clean Energy Ministerial and Mission Innovation are another important venue in which we are engaged in the work programs on hydrogen, and we will be hosting the Clean Energy Ministerial coming up in the next round. And in February 2022, as Fatih mentioned, Secretary Granholm will be chairing the IEA Ministerial. So we have a lot of technology, a lot of expertise, a lot of resources all along the value chain, and also in the research and development part of the hydrogen sphere. And so it's something that we can work on with our partners in Latin America, and something we bring to the table. And we're looking for things that Latin America can bring to the table and conduct research and deployment with us in the United States. It's an exciting time for hydrogen. I hope that they reopen the hydrogen filling station down the road, so that I can get a fuel cell vehicle soon, hopefully, looking at the Hyundai at the moment. And also excited to work with Latin America as this process moves forward.
Thank you very much for the intervention of the U.S. Energy Department. And it was a pleasure to moderate this panel. We had an outstanding presentation from each country and the contribution of each non-regional countries in this approach. To close, now the hydrogen is a great opportunity for the region. The role of the hydrogen is crucial for the decarbonization and net zero strategies, and there are a lot of opportunities for Latin America and the Caribbean. There are a lot of opportunities to increase the relations between regions also. And thank you very much. And I invite Mary Warwick to make the closing remarks. And thank you very much for this wonderful panel.
Well, thank you very much, Excellencies, Executive Secretary Blanco, Ms. Bedoya, everyone who's participated and helped to support and bring together our panels and discussion today. I would really like to thank all the speakers for their contributions to our discussions. I think today's roundtable has been really a very impressive review of Latin America's strengths on the pathway to a global net zero world and the potential for collaboration, both within Latin America, but also between Latin America and other regions. And I know I have certainly learned a lot and benefited from the discussion today. As more and more countries around the world embark on ever firmer pathways to net zero, setting more and more ambitious timeframes, it has been a timely opportunity, I think, today to take a look at how the region can best position itself within such an emerging global drive to net zero. And clearly, renewable energy is one of Latin America's strong points already today. As many of our speakers have expressed, the region should build on this by tapping the immense potential in both unconventional and conventional renewables. And the IEA is very happy to support the RELAC initiative. I'd like to commend Colombia for its leadership in this respect, as well as Chile and Costa Rica for their strong support for their initiative. And we are also delighted to act as a facilitator of the bioenergy platform, initially promoted by Brazil, but now counting 21 countries around the world, including many IEA member countries, to foster a low carbon bioeconomy that will be part of the decarbonization solution in Latin America and beyond. As variable renewables continue to grow rapidly, it will be important for the region to tap the full potential for flexibility constituted by high hydropower shares, while considering the issue of climate risks for changing rainfall patterns. And in the medium to long term, hydrogen appears to be a very promising technology option for the region. There is, of course, the promise of growing export volumes of low carbon hydrogen in the 2030s, but even today, there are hydrogen uses that can be decarbonized, starting the development of a low carbon hydrogen sector, preparing the way for future new and larger uses. Now, this is an extremely complex field. Policymakers have to consider early stage, high-tech R&D, skills issues, infrastructure planning, industrial policy, and financial issues, all in a holistic and strategic way. And in order to quickly deploy hydrogen in the region and turn Latin America into a hydrogen powerhouse, there are many complementarities in different subsectors that should be tapped with proactive regional and international collaboration. I think today's roundtable was a very useful opportunity to explore some of these potentials. So in closing, let me once again thank everyone for your participation. My colleagues and I at the IEA very much look forward to continue working closely with each of you to follow up on the issues that have been identified today in pursuit of a sustainable and secure energy future for all. And we look forward to soon signing the new work program with Argentina as well, which was referenced by Undersecretary Papa. So thank you very much once again, Executive Secretary Blanco, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, Mary Warwick, for your closing remarks. I will switch to Spanish in order to give my closing remarks. Para nosotros ha sido un placer coordinar y trabajar de forma conjunta con la Agencia Internacional de Energía y el BID en esta importante actividad. Lo remarcaba el secretario de Energía de Panamá hoy en su intervención. Empezamos el año pasado con una primera mesa de diálogo para América Latina y el Caribe, uniendo las acciones entre la Agencia Internacional de Energía, OLADE y el BID en temas de energía, trabajando en esa oportunidad en la recuperación sostenible de América Latina y el Caribe, con foco en el sector energía y el rol que iba a tener el sector energía. Hoy tenemos una segunda mesa de diálogo de muy alto nivel, en lo cual hemos dialogado ya sobre elementos tangibles, elementos claros de cómo el sector energético de América Latina y el Caribe va evolucionando y se va transformando de forma tal de lograr decarbonizarse, de lograr también llegar en un futuro a una meta de la carbono neutralidad. En esa agenda tenemos muchísimas cosas. Tenemos RELAC como iniciativa para lograr un 70% de renovabilidad en nuestra matriz energética. Tenemos el apoyo que se le viene dando a los países para profundizar sus políticas para el sector de energía y que incorporen a las transiciones energéticas como parte fundamental de esa visión de largo plazo. Y en eso la región ha avanzado muchísimo. Ha avanzado muchísimo también en la concreción de estrategias claras en tecnologías emergentes. Y ahí está el hidrógeno, pero ahí también está la electromovilidad, ahí está todo lo que se viene trabajando para la incorporación en mayor proporción de las energías renovables en una matriz energética que ya es verde, pero que todavía tenemos mucho para hacer en nuestra región para desarrollar aún más las transiciones energéticas. Y otro elemento que queda claro, que esto se traduce en una gran oportunidad para nuestra región, con una gran oportunidad para la creación de empleos, para la innovación, para el desarrollo también de investigación. Y eso incluye tanto a sector público como la activa participación del sector privado en las grandes inversiones que son necesarias para nuestra región, para desarrollar este sector. Hay grandes oportunidades, tenemos un camino todavía para transitar, tenemos mucho desde el multilateralismo, desde las agencias que trabajamos en el sector de energía, de trabajar cerca y mano a mano con nuestros países miembros. Celebro claramente esta acción que hemos llevado adelante con la Agencia Internacional de Energía y con el BID, y que realmente nos une muchísimo como organismos, como agencias que tenemos el foco en el desarrollo del sector energético de América Latina y el Caribe, pero fundamentalmente en el desarrollo y las mejoras de las condiciones de vida de toda nuestra población. Así que muchísimas gracias a todos los países que nos han acompañado, que siempre están presentes en y muy abiertos a este importante diálogo y a este importante intercambio que planteamos para toda nuestra región. Muchísimas gracias y no ocupo más de tiempo porque ya estamos completamente pasados del tiempo. Adelante, Jessica, para las palabras de cierre por parte de Luis.
Gracias. Good morning and good afternoon for those who join us from Europe. On behalf of the IDB Group, I would like to thank our partners for organizing this important discussion on such a crucial matter for Latin America and the Caribbean, the process of energy transition. Thank you, Faith Birol, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, and Alfonso Blanco, Executive Secretary of OLADE. Always an honor to work together. Let me also thank all the ministers and special guests that have joined today's roundtable. As it has been discussed in today's roundtable and in the closing remarks of our partners, energy transition is an imperative, but also an opportunity to not only respond to climate change, but also to improve people's lives, generate high-quality jobs in our region, and foster greater integration. Energy transition is a key component for climate change action, one of the areas key to our Vision 2025, which our president mentioned. We are committed in supporting our regional member countries as they go through this energy evolution. In fact, we are honored to be their partner of choice. Our region's amazing renewable resources play a key role in the decarbonization of the energy sector. The adoption of new technologies and the promotion of innovation are also important allies for this transition. It means the adoption of new technologies on the supply side, such as green hydrogen, especially to decarbonize the parts which are harder to decarbonize, such as the heavyweight transport and industrial sectors. But it also means change on the consumer side. As mentioned in the IEA report, more than 50% of the technologies necessary for the energy transition are associated with consumers. Here we see another opportunity in this transition, digitalization. From apps, safety alerts, productivity to connectivity and accessibility, digitalization goes beyond consumers. It's also key for better supply, better systems, and better operations. But there is no transformation on the consumer side of this equation without digitalization. Digitalization is a necessary step for energy transition. The IDB is fully committed with supporting the digitalization of our region, which, by the way, is also another priority in our Vision 2025. Our hope is that every Latin American and Caribbean country should be able to explore the best path for their energy transition from consumer, producer, and prosumers, or small-scale generator sites. Latin America and the Caribbean countries should have the opportunity to position themselves in a world in transition. This goes beyond decarbonization efforts to fight climate change. It is an amazing opportunity for sustainable and inclusive development. One final point that I would like to make is that the transformation of the energy industry needs to also incorporate gender equality. There are some signs of progress, and we have seen more women in this very traditionally male-dominated sector. But today, I would like to encourage all of you, leaders in this sector, to incorporate more women in the complete value chain of the energy field, especially as we advance and accelerate the energy transition in our region. The IDB has always been the partner of choice for clean energy in Latin America and the Caribbean, and it will remain so as we work together to reach our goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Thank you.